had, before I met Bruce, I had been in an emotionally abusive relationship and had gotten out of that, but felt, I don't know, like my life was over in a lot of ways, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I wanted to do something big and bold. And I got to rule number 3, and I said, rule number 3, do hard things. And he died. And I feel like I gave him permission. Every time we needed help.
Welcome to the Wheel With It podcast with your host, Devon. Let's get into the episode.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Wheel With It. I am your host, Devon Wieters, and today we have Teri Brown, who's got a book with one of the best and funniest titles I have ever heard. I'm going to let her tell you about it. But how are you today, Teri?
I am doing wonderfully, and I want to thank you so much for having me on today, Devon.
You are so welcome. So tell us about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
All right. So I'm an author. I'm also a podcast host, a mom and a grandma, and I have all kinds of titles under my belt. But I've written 3 novels, and I have also written a children's picture book. But I think the one that you're referring to that you like the title of is 10 Little Rules for a Double-Butted Adventure. And it is...
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
No, and so it is an inspirational memoir about my husband and I traveled from the coast of Oregon to Washington, D.C. on a tandem bicycle.
Tell us how you came up with the title, first of all, and then tell us like how this little adventure, I guess you could call it, came about.
Yeah, the title came about. It's really funny because it came about for me because I was thinking, what's something cute that we could use to write on the blog? And I thought it's 2 butts, 1 seat, so it's a double-butted adventure. My husband is an engineer, and he always has some other reason. And so he said, oh, you named it double-butted because of double-butted steel and double-butted tubing. And I was like, what are you talking about? So apparently, in order to make a tandem bicycle, you have to use something called a double-butted steel process, and it has something to do with the way it's welded, and it keeps it thicker on the ends so that the welding stays strong. So I laughed and said that the name of the book was perfect because it represented me, who was trying to be like fun and artistic, and it also represented my husband, who was the engineer.
Oh my gosh, I never knew that there was a welding technique called double butting. That is hilarious.
Yeah, and I thought it was pretty funny too. Yeah, and then our ride came about for a number of reasons as well. My husband had wanted to ride across the United States ever since 1976. There was a group of college kids that did this ride, and he was in the military at the time. Of course, couldn't take time off to do it, but thought, wow, that sounds like fun. And before I met Bruce, I had been in an emotionally abusive relationship and had gotten out of that, but felt, I don't know, like my life was over in a lot of ways, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I wanted to do something big and bold. So when he brought up the fact that he'd always wanted to ride across the United States on a bicycle, I thought, now that's an adventure. And before long, we had decided that he and I would do it together and that we would ride a tandem to do it.
So did you guys like train for this? I would imagine you would have to train for this.
Yes. So we did a lot of training. When I met Bruce, I had not been on a bicycle in 40 years. So it was a very big deal for me to go from not doing that to riding. And we did about 1,000 training miles. But something I like to remind people is that we live in North Carolina, and we live on the coast of North Carolina. So it's very flat here. And on the first day of our trip, we were going up over a mountain range. So even though we had planned and had done these miles, we weren't as ready as we thought we were. And on the very first day, I thought, oh no, maybe we've bitten off more than we can chew. But we did eventually make it all the way across.
Can you take us through what the 10 rules are and how you came up with them?
Yeah, so the 10 rules, they're things that I learned while riding across the United States. So a lot of people think that the only reason to read the book is if they're a cyclist, and that's not true at all, because if you're trying to do anything where you're stepping outside of your box, out beyond, then then this book can really help you. The other thing I want to mention is these are my 10 rules, right? And so you might have a different 10 rules, or maybe you only need 8, or maybe you need 14. So after each chapter, I've also given space for you to have your own reflections to come up with whatever rules work for you. But the rules came about very organically. It was just what we were doing when we were out there and the things that I learned. But so let me give you what my rules are here. One of them, let me give you my 2 favorites, first of all. One of them, my rule number 9, is never quit on a bad day. And the reason for this rule was we had a very bad day. We had to go 70 miles that day. There was no choice. That's a long day on a tandem.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah. And there was nothing in between where we were and where we were going. And so we had
God,
to
okay.
And it was
That is why I will never do anything like this. I cannot go 70 miles.
And it was hot, and it was hilly, and the wind was blowing right at us all day long, so we had to push harder than normal. And we had not 1, not 2, but 3 flat tires that day.
Oh, God.
And we went into a valley where there were mosquitoes the size of like your fist. They were just huge, and it was just a miserable day.
Oh my God, the mosquitoes in the summer here are miserable, and we don't even get that big of a mosquito.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was a bad day. It was just a horrible day. And we get done with this horrible day, and we're in a nasty hotel because it was the only thing available. And it was just, so I wrote in my blog that day, I think we're done. I'm not having any fun. This is stupid. And I had a friend reach out to me, and she said, Teri, what you've done so far is amazing. You have come over 1,000 miles. You've been over the Rocky Mountains on a tandem bicycle. If you stopped riding today, you could feel really good about what you've done. But I recommend you don't quit on a hard day, on a bad day, because you'll always wonder, could I have done it? She said, why don't you give yourself a break, take a few days, think about it before you make this decision. Whatever you decide, I'm proud of you. So I took her words to heart. The next day we had a fabulous day, and I didn't feel like quitting anymore. And so since then, I have used this rule over and over. When you have a bad day, anything can make you stop. Think about when you're tired and hungry and just miserable. Anything, my shoes don't fit right, I'm just done, I'm just stopping. But once you've had a good sleep and you've had some food and you've had a chance to think about it, then maybe you have something where you want to keep going. So I like the idea of stopping and thinking about it and seeing, what do I really want to quit? Sometimes quitting is an okay thing. Sometimes you can say, you know what, this isn't working for me anymore, and therefore I want to stop doing what I'm doing. But sometimes it's just because you're tired and you don't want to quit on a bad day. So that's one of my favorite rules. And then my other really favorite rule is rule number 3, and it's do hard things. And the reason that I like rule number 3, so this is a little bit sad, so let me just warn you, but my husband, after we got back from the ride about a year and a half later, he was diagnosed with glioblastoma, which it's an incurable brain cancer. And he passed away on January 10th of this year.
I'm sorry.
I know it was a very sad thing, but on January 10th, I got the copy of this book, my first author copy.
That is crazy.
I came into the room to show it to him. He was not really awake anymore at that point, but I felt like he could hear me. And so I laid in bed with him, and I put my head on his shoulder, and I started reading the book to him out loud. And I got through the introduction, and I got through rule number 1 and rule number 2, and I got to rule number 3. And I said, rule number 3, do hard things. And he died. And I feel like I gave him permission. And I also feel like that was his last words to me, that for the next little bit, I was going to have to do hard things. And so that has become my rule right now, is do hard things. So when I get up in the morning and I think, oh, I don't know that I can do this today, I just think rule number 3, do hard things. And I get up and I start my day.
Yeah. Sorry about your husband.
Yeah.
That's crazy. What's been the reaction to the book?
So far, it's been really good. It has won 4 awards so far, which I'm really excited about. And most people who read the book really enjoy it and they like what they learn because, like I said, it's not like a travel log. And it's not a Terry knows everything there is to know and you should follow what I tell you to do. Instead, it's here's some things that I learned about life. And I try to be funny and very honest about the things that I experienced on the trip and how that came about those lessons.
So this is gonna sound like such a philosophical question, but did you learn anything about our country during the ride? And if so, like, what did you learn?
Yeah. So, first of all, our country is beautiful. That's one of the things that I learned. When you're riding very slowly and you get to see everything, our country is beautiful. We had horses that ran with us one day.
Oh my
So
God!
they're running along the side of the road and we're
You have
riding. It
video
was
of
just, yeah. No, I don't have any video. I was
this?
so busy
Okay.
with my mouth hanging open. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. One night we woke up and looked outside. We were in Montana and the they looked like you could just reach out and touch them. They were so close. And the comet Neowise was crossing across the sky that night. And you could see the tail looked like it was a foot and a half long from where we were standing. And it was just unbelievable. And the wildflowers that we saw and the rivers it was just beautiful. So that's one of the things that I learned is we have a beautiful country. And I think the other thing that I learned is that in general, people in our country are pretty amazing. I know that we can watch the news and the news will tell you that everybody's horrible and we all hate one another. But my husband and I rode for 3 months across the United States, and every time we needed help, someone was willing to help us. And people were kind and wonderful and loved to find out what we were doing. And if you feel like the world is falling apart, I suggest that you go out into it and start meeting people, and you'll really realize that we have a great place to be here.
Yes, a little bit personal. I used to be like almost naive. I was so trusting of people. And then I myself got into an emotionally abusive relationship and got out. And so I'm not going to tell you his name, that's all I'll say. And so I have struggled with, okay, when do I trust people and when are they like BSing me? But honestly, a lot of people in this country are pretty awesome. I don't care what their
Yes.
politics are. A lot of people in this country are pretty awesome.
I
Not
think that
all,
right.
but you had,
I think there are bad people in the world and bad things do happen, and I recognize that. But generally speaking, I think most people are good. Most people want the same kinds of things that you and I want. We want happiness, we want love, we want family, we want safety. We want the same kinds of things. And riding across the United States, I really felt that.
yeah, that's awesome. Do you have a favorite story of something you did or a person that you met along the way?
There's one kind of cool story. We were staying in a city park. They allowed camping there at the city park, and a group of Native American Indians started doing a drum circle, and they were singing songs in their native language. So I couldn't understand what they were saying, but they were playing the drum and singing the song. And one of them came over and told us that the song was wishing us well on our travels, which was really cool.
That is amazing. Oh my gosh. Anything else you want to add before we get off here? And where can people go to follow you on social media and all of that?
Yeah. So the best place to get up with me is to go to my website, which is my name, terrymbrown.com. And that's Terry with one R. If you go there, you can follow all of my social media. So all the icons are there. You can sign up for my newsletter. You can see all of my books. I also have a podcast called Online for Authors where I talk to other authors. So you can see all the different authors I've spoken with. And I even just have a contact me page. So you could reach out if you just wanted to say hello or ask me a question. And in terms of what I'd like to leave everyone with, I think the one thing that I really have come to understand is that we have inside of us what we need in the to do what we want to do. And sometimes life will bury it and we might have trouble figuring out that we're worth something, that we have value or whatever, but we do, and it's there. And look for that and go do that thing that you want to do and be that person that you want to be, because you have that ability.
That is amazing. That is so good what you said. So we will see you guys next episode. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell if you're on YouTube or Spotify, and we will see you guys next episode. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to follow the show and our guests on social media and subscribe. Be sure to hit the bell so you'll get notified when we upload new episodes. See you next time.